IMONOBLAB!
Hey everybody, it's Scotty, bass player for Imonolith. This week for the IMONOBLAB, I am going to talk to you about influences. Um, Both musical and non-musical you can be influenced by. Really what I want to do is start a dialogue here in the comment section about what influences you guys when you're doing your art or you're doing whatever you love to do. Who are the people in that field that really inspire you to do better or to keep going? Um, I'd love to hear that. For me, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, uh, I don't really have any interests outside of music. I mean, music's my job, music's my hobby, music's everything to me. So when I'm not playing and performing in a monolith, I always write and record with other projects. I have a couple other bands as well um, that I'm always busy with. I'm always constantly inspired to create the next thing, the next new song, the next new sound. Um, I'm a natural collaborator. So if you get me in a room with one other person that I can bounce my energy off of, I will play that tennis match forever. So I hope some of you guys out there are like that, and I'd love to hear, of course, like what are your collaborations and what are your influences. I'll just get into a few of mine for a number of reasons. Mostly musical, but also as a human, as the way that he thought, and kind of opened up my brain to the different possibilities and the breadth and of creativity that you can have in a musical setting. Mr. Frank Zappa. If you don't know Zappa, if you're not familiar with him, he's a very interesting listen. He has a very unique style, and he is a very prolific composer. He's an American composer that passed away in the early 90s, that didn't believe that genres or lines of division between art existed. So if you had a Hawaiian guitar with distortion on it and mixed it with an R&B drum beat and whatever else have you, he liked to slam things together. Around the time that the term fusion was created, Frank was definitely at the forefront of a lot of that. Um, he has created about 3,000 pieces of original material. He rivals Duke Ellington as one of the most prolific American composers of all time. Um, so if you've never heard of Frank, I definitely suggest looking into his catalog uh, just to be inspired by the amount of it. His interviews are also very excellent. He had a gigantic brain um, and was very cynical, but also he had a very George Carlin-esque mentality on the way the world works. I think he's fantastic. I definitely suggest that you check into him. Another big one for me, Primus. As a bass player, Les Claypool is my biggest influence. He's not the reason that I picked up the bass. I think that award goes to Paul McCartney, but he's the bass player that opened my eyes to what I used to think was the role of the bass into a completely different light. I never knew that two-hand tapping or slapping or flamenco style or singing and playing bass as a lead instrument. I never knew those things were possibilities, and it blew my mind. Um, Maybe some of the, maybe some of you know the first person, when you picked up guitar and then all of a sudden let's say you were listening to Nirvana and then you heard Van Halen for the first time and you were just like, what the fuck? Um, that was Les Claypool for me, where I was listening to different types of music and all of a sudden Primus came along and blew my head open. Faith No More is another one of those bands that's a really big influence for me, but specifically Primus and Les Claypool's vision of expanding what the instrument can do, I am forever indebted. And somewhere along the lines, I've tried to convince myself that I'm also a singer, a vocalist. Um, I've done a lot of screaming in hardcore bands over the years. I've sung and screamed in metal bands. uh, quite a few, for many years. But I would say that not my biggest influence on how I necessarily sound or how I perform, but I think personally the greatest singer of all time, of any genre, of any type of music, is Sarah Vaughan. If you don't know this goddess, check her out. She was a jazz singer, but that's narrowing down her abilities to a very fine point. She had a vocal style that was almost very instrumental. It was elastic. She could do anything. She could sing any range effortlessly with so much joy, and her music just brings the biggest smile to my face. Um, Sarah Vaughan, absolutely amazing. So these are just a few of my influences. Please let me know what your influences are in the comments below, and let's get a dialogue going. I really, really love to hear what gets you guys going. Okay, love you very much. Talk to you next time. Bye bye.
IMONOBLAB!